A former miner, mines rescue team member and mines delegate for the EPMU says the drift of the Pike River coal mine is safe to enter, and he would go up it himself, so the families of the 29 miners didn't have to wonder forever if the bodies of some of their men are there. Harold Gibbons, who worked at both Pike and Spring Creek and who was a member of the mine's rescue team, strongly disagrees with Solid Energy's assessment of the mine as unsafe to enter in the drift. This comes as Solid Energy prepares to act on a deadline set by WorkSafe for the sealing of the mine by the end of the month. While that seal now does look inevitable, Nigel Hampton QC, acting for family members of some of the miners, is pursuing legal avenues to get it put on hold.
Why the need in such haste to seal a place that A, may contain, there's evidence to support that it may contain at least one body, that's the drift, in the drift itself, and secondly, undue haste to seal a scene which is still a crime scene, one of the biggest homicide scenes, I suspect, in New Zealand, that has been not properly investigated, and the ability to further investigate will be lost if this is sealed. Of course, WorkSafe is the successor of the Mines Inspectorate from the Department of Labour days. The Mines Inspectorate did not come out of that Royal Commission into the Pike River well. They could be seen as bearing a fair share of the responsibility of what went on there. Does that lie behind the undue haste? I pose it as a rhetorical question.
Nigel Hampton QC is not the only person posing that rhetorical question. Harold Gibbons says none of this should be required. The families understand they can't get access to the mine proper, just the drift. That's the entry really from the outside, so they don't forever have to live with the possibility that there is a body or bodies close to the surface that they could have brought out. I asked Harold Gibbons if he'd be prepared to go in.
Yes, I would, John. And there's a lot of other former rescue guys that are like-minded like myself that would certainly volunteer and do it at a moment's notice.
Nick Smith says you cannot justify putting further lives at risk. And on the face of it, that's an utterly reasonable thing to say. Do you feel that lives would be at risk if you went up the drift?
No, they wouldn't be, John. Like, this is what we train for. And we train day in and day out to work in aspirable atmospheres like this. And we have done so in the past to seal sections of some mines that have basically gone on fire and needed to be sealed quick. So you're working in that environment. You put all your safety plans in place and you follow them through. It's no different to a diver diving on a wreck.
Right. The interesting thing to me is, and I didn't realise this until I spoke to you just prior to this interview, is you've already been up the drift since the explosions?
That's correct, John. I was part of the one of the original teams that put the first seal in at about 170 metres with to help put a proper seal in to stabilise the mine and with further intentions of reclaiming the drift.
Right, so you've been 170 metres up the drift already. Were you in grave or mortal danger when you were doing that? In other words, the sorts of discussions that are taking place now about the risk to health and safety, in fact the risk to life, has anything changed in the drift between now and when you were up there working in it?
No, nothing's changed at all. And in actual fact, things have actually improved. With the gas levels being what they are currently, there's no combustion, there's no oxygen which could mix with the methane to make it an explosive mixture. It is the perfect time to re-enter the drift, and it would be of minimal cost. You're not talking about reclaiming the drift or reclaiming the mine, which would be a huge cost, yes, but you would have minimal cost of doing exploratory walk up the drift to see if there is any bodies up the end of the drift.
And you would be prepared to do that? Do you know other current and or former mines rescue personnel who would be prepared to do that?
Yes, there's a lot of guys that would be prepared to do that, and it's the only regrets a lot of us have is that we didn't do it. But on that day, we had a job to do, and that was to seal the drift seal the mine and make the mine stable, which is currently what the mine is at now.
Harold, this is a very difficult balancing act for the government, isn't it? For the people who have to make the decision, who would have to sign off on men like you re-entering the mine, because there are 29 dead men in that mine, and that's enough, isn't it? In fact, you know, that's 29 more than enough. And so how do you get the balancing act right? Doing what the families are desperate to have done, which is solve the uncertainty around who, if anyone, is lying in the drift, at the same time as protecting lives and ensuring that the toll doesn't get any higher than the 29 it already is.
Look, you know, like I said, we've trained in this atmosphere. It is what we do. I'd like to ask the government, who's providing them the information to say that it's dangerous and unsafe? Where are they getting their information? And actually name the people that are providing the information, because it's lies to say that it's unsafe.
Harold Gibbons, a former mines rescue worker. Solid Energy declined our invitation to respond to what Harold was saying. There are obviously strongly held opinions by Harold and many of the families. Nigel Hampton QC taking a case on their behalf.